All right. Thank you very much, Nigel, for joining us. Moving on, India's logistics sector is on track to reach $215 billion of valuation in 2 years. I'm quoting a report by regulatory technology solutions company Teamlease. The report is called Simplifying Compliance Management for the Logistics and Supply Chain Industry. It examines the concerns of the logistics sector and gives an overview of the regulatory environment. The report reveals that around 91% of surveyed logistics and supply chain companies agreed that they have paid fines and penalties in the last 1 year. The report highlights complexities and challenges of the compliance landscape. It says compliance can be streamlined by conducting a baseline applicability assessment, creating a central paperless compliance document repository, subscribing to real-time national and personalized regulatory updates, and digitizing end-to-end compliance management. To take this forward, I'm now joined by Rishi Agrawal, CEO and co-founder, Teamlease Regtech. Rishi, thank you very much for joining us. Give us a sense of how regulatory issues, compliance issues are creating hurdles in the logistics industry.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me on the show today. As we probably have heard, India has about 1,536 unique acts, and subsumed in them are about 70,000 unique compliances. Now, if you take a look at the logistics sector and talk about one small company which is based in a single state with a single corporate office and one warehouse, they typically deal with close to 650 unique compliances, 35 different licenses and registrations, 95 display requirements, about 135 unique registers to be maintained throughout the year, 94 returns, disclosures and intimations, about 98 different items around employee safety and welfare compliances. So if you look at it, a single entity, single state, single corporate office with one warehouse deals with so many. Now, in case a logistics company has to expand its footprint in India, imagine they have to set up different warehouses in different cities and states and so on and so forth. And just one element of this entire industry deals with few thousand of these compliances in a course of a typical year. And that's a huge problem right there. Now, in addition, the law of the land is very fluid. The country goes through about 5,000 plus regulatory changes in a year, and such a company, and we work with many logistics companies in the country, deal with anywhere between 500 to 700 regulatory changes in the course of a year. So that's the size, complexity, and scale that we are talking about.
Right. I would also like to ask you about the potential of the logistics sector if we remove all these legal and regulatory impediments.
So this industry is the backbone of the country's manufacturing. Everything that we consume in the country, whether it's inbound logistics, outbound logistics, third-party logistics, and we have spoken about all of these fourth-party logistics, reverse logistics, cold chain logistics, hyperlocal, last mile, all of these are heavily dependent on logistics, its efficiency, its cost structure, the cost of entering the business, the cost of running the business, the cost of closing it down. All of these are important elements. Now, if the industry's regulatory cholesterol is reduced, the number of compliances can come down, the entrenched hostility and distrust in the environment can go down. And and our report points out that over 200 among the 648 compliances that a small logistics and warehousing company deals with have criminality and jail term embedded in them. So if some of this goes down, chances are that entry, operations, cost, efficiency can all positively get impacted, and its contribution to the GDP can also positively go up.
Right. My final question, Rishi, when it comes to the national logistics policy, the Gati Shakti, what are some of the issues that the government needs to address? The interministerial groups meet almost every week to look at lapses when it comes to infrastructure, when it comes to implementing India's renewable strategy across the sector. Which are some of the areas we need to focus on in order to make the national logistics policy a success?
So government is already working on a draft national logistics law, a logistics master plan, a national grid for logistics parks and terminals, the national logistics platform, which is ILOG, and it's also working on development of a national logistics workforce strategy. The NLP will comprise 4 major steps, including IDS, which is integration of digital systems, unified logistics interface platform, which is ULIP, and ease of logistics, along with the systems of improvement group. So some of the work is already getting done. The country is already starting to see some benefit of it. But while some of the newer items happen, we also have to focus on how the overall cost of compliance, the cost of non-compliance, the fluidity in the regulatory environment, the hostility and entrenched distrust in the regulatory environment can reduce, and the entrepreneur can breathe slightly easier.
All right, Rishi Agrawal, thank you very much for joining us with that quick take on your report. We leave it there for the moment.